you choose to run for Chief Justice?
I chose to run for Chief Justice to increase the relevancy of the court's program area, as well as improve our curriculum and improve the Y&G program as a whole. I want to improve the amount of time we spend on the court's program, improve our delegation curriculum for courts, and make courts a more exciting and enjoyable place where all delegates can feel ready to participate.
I want to give back to this program as it has given me so many things. A deep connection and love for politics, I've met amazing people, and I've had the best discussions. In this position, I want everyone to know that their voices are heard, respected, and not judged. I want people to know that I will be a voice for them even if their opinions don't align with mine, because that is what someone in this position and someone in any position of power should do.
What kind of legislation would you support that would help fight discrimination in the criminal justice system?
I support decriminalizing drugs and abolishing the school-to-prison pipeline, both of which will help to end mass incarceration, which, as we've seen, disproportionately affects communities of color as well as low-income communities. By handling these issues in a mental health way or an educational way, we'll be able to provide individuals with the supports they need to be successful in later life.
I would support a piece of legislation that repeals the three strikes law. A strike could be considered a drug offense among many other violent crimes. We know that Black people are charged at higher rates than their white counterparts, and people of color are given longer sentences. Because of this, the discrimination has been able to make way with this three strikes law. So I would support a piece of legislation that repeals it without any replacement.
Which past or present California or United States Chief Justice's court align with your ideals best, and why?
The Warren Court would have to be the Supreme Court that aligns with my ideals best. We know of the court most likely from Brown versus the Board of Education. That was just one of the many cases they decided that increased civil liberties and decreased discrimination, as well as helped to support civil rights and other important movements.
The first Chief Justice that I chose was Salmon Chase because of his influence on the anti-slavery front as well as the opposition of the expansion of slavery. The second Chief Justice was Earl Warren because of his belief of equality within the criminal justice system as well as defending human rights. My third and last Chief Justice that I chose was the current California Supreme Court Justice, Tanny Cantil, because of her beliefs on bail reform as well as civil discourse within education for students.
How did you get interested in the Supreme Court system?
I became interested in the Supreme Court system after participating in ICJ during my 8th grade year of Model United Nations. After serving as an attorney and being able to practice my litigation skills, I was inspired to apply for Supreme Court last year, where I became the first freshman appointed to the California Supreme Court in Y&G, and I had such a great experience. I wanted to continue this year and hopefully in my future years of Y&G as well.
I think I got most interested in the Supreme Court system with the Roe v. Wade case. It was more personal than a lot of the other cases I'd seen just because I was a young woman and it could affect my own future, the future of people that I know, and it helped me open up that conversation to politics and see what other cases they had decided on that would affect me then or in my future.
Which California or United States Supreme Court decision was most interesting to you, and do you agree with the decision made?
Roe versus Wade would have to be the most interesting Supreme Court decision to me because it is still so controversial so many years later. I do agree with the decision made by the court, and I believe it's important to allow citizens to have autonomy over themselves, and I believe that that should be protected by the Constitution.
Tinker versus Des Moines is a case that I found super interesting and agreed with the rulings of the Supreme Court with, because it was a case where a small group of students went to school wearing a black armband in opposition to the Vietnam War and in mourning of the American and Vietnamese that had died, and the school ended up suspending them. The Supreme Court ended up ruling in favor of the students, and I thought that it was extremely interesting because it still affects us.
How will you better integrate the courts program into the rest of Y&G?
I actually don't believe that the courts program needs to be integrated into the rest of YNG. There is a distinct difference between courts and legislation, and it's okay if there's not a lot of overlap. However, I do support making the Chief Justice election on par with the Youth Governor election to help increase interest and engagement with the court side of the program area from all delegates.
I think a really great way to integrate the courts program with the rest of YNG would almost be separate than our program areas, where we would have activities that are interconnected with all of them, almost like freshman year. You can get a taste of what everything's like, even though it's separate than what you're actually doing in your program area at the moment. And I just think it would be a really great way to learn about the other program areas and not throw yourself completely into them.
What does the word justice mean to you?
Justice, to me, is not about justice through the criminal justice system. It's not about incarceration, and it's not about more people behind bars. It's about ensuring that individuals never end up in a situation where they are breaking the law. It's about ensuring that we have supports in place to help individuals stay on a track towards college, on a track towards career, and on a track towards safety in the rest of their lives.
A saying that I've heard that I can't remember word for word is that nothing can go too good or too bad for too long. It always has to come back to the center, and it always has to balance itself out. I think this relates to justice for me because justice in any sense is a balancer. It balances out the inequalities and injustices that have happened by handing people their consequences on a plate.
What would you do to make the courts program less complicated and overwhelming for newcomers?
I would start by introducing delegates to the courts program in delegation meetings by coming up with fun mini cases that can be debated in meetings, much like the fun debates we have that relate to legislation. I would also begin an office hours program where courts delegates could get together on a Zoom call, discuss cases, work through issues, and share interpretations with each other.
Something that I would want to do is have everyone in the program area choose, or at least help choose, the cases that are going to be presented. I think this is really important in helping newer people because if they're interested in the topic, which if it's the majority rules, a lot of people will be, it's a lot easier to digest the information, as well as making everything that is presented relevant. When you make things relevant, people are much more interested because a lot of people already know what's happening in the world.
If you could invite any three justices to a dinner party, who would you invite and why?
I would invite Ruth Bader Ginsburg and Sonia Sotomayor because I think they've both done excellent work with increasing judicial activism and fighting against discrimination in the court. I would also invite Chief Justice John Roberts because I really respect the way he views each case in an individualized way, and I think that's a very important trait for a judge to have.
First, in no particular order, I would invite Sonia Sotomayor. She is the first Latina on the Supreme Court. Second, I would invite Warren E. Burger. He was the Chief Justice on the Roe v. Wade case, and like I said, that was very influential for me. And last but definitely not least would be Ruth Bader Ginsburg because she made so many leaps on the forefront of women's rights.
What kind of impact do you hope to make on the program?
I hope to reunite YNG and reunite our greater community with the Los Angeles and statewide programs. I'll be working with delegates from both of these programs to help bring us back together in Sacramento in the aftermath of COVID while still allowing our current leadership to serve in the positions that they were elected to. I think that this is essential to maintaining the integrity of YNG and keeping us connected with our friends.
An impact that I really hope to make is to give everyone the confidence and willingness to tell me, your Chief Justice, or any other future Chief Justice for that matter, what you really want to happen within the program area. It's really hard to be connected in courts. As we know, it's pretty distanced from every other program area, but we want to close that gap and we want to build those bridges to the other program areas, and that starts with knowing what everyone wants. And I think that that is really important.